Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
Birds keep flying high, fans cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Needy boys brawling, no holds barred loud. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe. Not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman?
Tune in the vibe. Party Rex, good setters. Got me on the mic now, let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Wilt to Steph, we hit it again. Open the chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Broadcast magic can't be beat. Do better, we're go better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guard3, and welcome to the And One Podcast. Of course, joining me, just like every week, he is the greatest co-host of all time. He is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
Hey, what's good, Brett? What's good, chat? Let's get into it.
Oh, absolutely. Mo, you know how we start out. It's going to be a great week. We're going to be doing a lot of different all-time list stuff because of Bleacher Report. We'll be talking about some Mount Rushmores. But we're going to start out like we do every week. Underrated player of the week. Mo, why don't you give us kicked off? Who's your underrated player this week?
My underrated player of the week, he's actually a guy that was drafted by my Lakers. They didn't hold on to him long enough. He went to Seattle, had some success there, but really made a name for himself with the Sacramento Kings as a great lockdown 3-and-D guy, great versatile defender. The guy I'm talking about is Doug Christie. Doug Christie was a member of those great Sacramento teams that battled the Lakers. They had like a 3 or 4 year window where they were legit title contenders. And Doug Christie, Bobby Jackson, those guys, those were the linchpin to that Kings defense. So I want to give a shout out, give some flowers out to a great defender, good all-around basketball player, Doug Christie.
I love the shout out. Always love watching some Doug Christie. Love watching those Kings team in general. You know, it's funny. I'm kind of going back to an era and a player that, you know all too well, Mo. And I got this, idea watching the Blazers' new rookie that's taking the internet by storm, Hanson Yang. He's got some great passing chops. And, a lot of people are talking about, Jokic and how maybe he's the next Jokic. But, look, watching him, he's got me thinking of another player. How about my underrated player of the week, Arvydas Sabonis?
Wow.
Anchoring some of those great Blazers teams. And he was just a fantastic player. And the funny part is we didn't get to see the best version of him because he came to the league so late. And the fact that he came into the league so late and he was still as great as he was, just an absolutely terrific ball player. And I think that he is somebody that a lot of people would argue was the greatest passing center of all time before Jokic. He was that good slinging the rock around. He was in that conversation. So my underrated player of the week, give me Arvydas Sabonis.
That's a great pick. Look, if you're a basketball fan or a basketball historian, you said it. We never saw Sabonis in his prime. When he got to the NBA, he was well past his prime. He was like 3 or 4 knee surgeries into his career, and he was a terrific high-level player then, with all that behind him. I saw the old highlights of him in international play, and he completely dominated David Robinson and a lot of the other American bigs. He was that big a talent. So I love the shout out. I love you giving him his flowers. Arvydas Sabonis, underrated player.
Say we got John. Welcome, John. Talking Kings back in the day. Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson Kings or Kevin Martin? Because Kevin Johnson is from the Suns.
Say Hondo. I love me some Hondo. Hondo is actually a great transition. Thank you for that, John. Because Bleacher Report, and this will be our first topic, they drop their top 100 players of all time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post it in the chat for everybody to see if they haven't, and they can kind of judge it for themselves. So, as that comes along, I'll say that only showed the top 30. Okay. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to discuss, just some of these names that are on here, and if they're too high or too low. And Mo, we might as well start off with the big one. There's a lot of controversy with this list, mainly because of, who wasn't in the top 10. Now, when we did our all-time list, we were doing ours, post-merger. And we had Kobe sitting at 6. Bleacher Report said, nah, that doesn't work for me. Kobe is the 11th best player of all time. Why don't I start with you, Mo? What do you think about that?
It's just proof that Bleacher Report gets them wrong too, like other people do. Like you're not going to get everything right. They definitely get Kobe not being top 10 is just wrong. Point blank. Period. You and I have him in our top 10. Here's the crazy part. If they saw our top 10s, I think we have him somewhere like 6 or 7. For some Kobe fans, that's still not good enough. They want Kobe like 2 or 3. And I can't do that. I can't go there. I think having Kobe in the middle of the top 10 is where that's properly where he should be ranked. I'm not doing that. But the idea that he's outside of the top 10, it kind of disrupts our overall rankings if you think about it, because when they announced it and we talked about it on the morning show, Brett, I said the way it's ranked, if Shaq's number 8 or 9 and Kobe's just inside the top 10 or just outside, then you're saying you don't have room for Kobe and Shaq in the top 10. And if that's the case and you got to choose between one or the other, I would take Kobe.
So we haven't made it as far enough to include Chris Webber, but I assure you Chris Webber's going to be in our top 100 when we make it that far. I think in the list that we kind of have slowly building, it's at like 25 or 30. And right. He's not in that conversation.
For sure.
And I think that's fair, but he will absolutely be in the top 100. I actually think Chris Webber got disrespected on this list. But no, I completely agree. The funny part is people, they always talk about like, well, you can't include Kobe because he played with Shaq. And yet in the same sentence, like, it's the most hypocritical thing to say. And the reason I say that is, let me pull this back up again. Hey, who is that at number 3? Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who's that at 4? Oh, Magic Johnson. So right. It's okay if it's Magic and, Kareem playing together. But if it's Kobe and Shaq, it's not okay. Like, I never understood that logic. Like, no. Why is it like a diss for some teammates to get other top 10 teammates or even top 20 teammates? And yet when it's Kobe, toss him way out of the top 10. You know what? He's the 120th best player of all time. Like, it's absurd to me that Kobe gets this massive tax because of Shaq, yet when it's like Kareem and Magic, it's perfectly fine. That doesn't bother anything.
No, I think that's a great analogy. They also don't do that tax for Larry Bird, and he had McHale and Parrish and Dennis Johnson. They're all Hall of Famers. They don't do that tax on Bird. I heard somebody tried to make the same comparison, but I thought it was a horrible comparison because they were saying like, well, we don't tax Duncan because he played with Ginobili and Parker. And I said, all due respect, Ginobili and Parker were terrific players. Combined, they're not the equal of prime Shaquille O'Neal. So let's calm down a little bit.
And like, yeah, even like, I'm like, we're like looking at this and it's like, okay, Wilt had another top 20 teammate in Jerry West, who arguably should be in the top 15. Like I said, and that's kind of what I want to say with this is you can't criticize Kobe or one person for having good teammates and yet be like, well, Magic and Kareem, 3 and 4 perfectly fine. Kobe and Shaq, Kobe takes it because Shaq was his teammate. That just doesn't really work like that.
I would also say this, another guy that when we're doing the top 10 all time, if we're not doing pre-merger, but just saying top 10 all time, that he's probably in the top 10, the great Bill Russell. Bill Russell played with like 8 or 9 Hall of Famers. We don't tax him. Like, think about all you just mentioned, John Havlicek, Nkuzi, JoJo White. Bill played with nothing but Hall of Famers, and we don't kill him for playing with Hall of Famers. So I don't like he played with Shaq because it makes it seem like Kobe was just a sidekick. If you want to say Shaq was 1A, which is how I saw it, Kobe was right there. He was A. He was that important to those Lakers championships. And when we're talking about greatest players of all time, we're not talking about just your career with Shaquille O'Neal. I'm also talking about your career outside of Shaquille O'Neal. Well, Kobe won 2 more championships outside of that relationship. Shaq only won 1. Who carried who?
And the one that he won, he was like a 13 a game player, like
13 in the finals, not being guarded by an elite defender, but being guarded by a guy that he used to laugh at and couldn't score on him.
Yeah, no. At the end of the day, to me it's wild. I think they nailed it seems like the names are, right for the most part, but like also I think they're just the order feels messed up. By the way, it's cut off at number 30 is Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is at 30. Who's ahead of Chris Paul?
This is to me, this is questionable. John Stockton.
So respectfully, because John Stockton obviously is not a secret, I believe he's the all-time leading assist guy, which that's no small feat. John Stockton, I think didn't he play 19 or 20 years, had a great, long, productive career. He was a multiple-time All-NBA defender, led the league in assists multiple times. No shade on John Stockton. Do I think John Stockton was a better basketball player than Chris Paul? I think their skill sets are similar, but I think Chris Paul is the quicker, stronger, more athletic version of John Stockton. I think Chris Paul should be ranked ahead of John Stockton.
Absolutely. By the way, Dominique Wilkins does get overlooked a lot more than he does or should. Love me some Dominique. And to say, I think Antoine would probably be closer. I don't think he'd become anywhere near the top 100. Maybe somewhere in like the top 200 or 300. But love me Antoine, but probably somewhere in the top 200.
Now I've never seen I haven't seen this year's 100. We talked about it a little bit, but I haven't seen the list top to bottom. I guarantee you Jameson's not in there. He's a good player, but Brett, I think you hit on it. If he's on a list, he's between 150 and 200. He good. Let's not say what he's not. He's a good player, but I think Jameson would be somewhere next to a guy like Caron Butler, right? Somebody like that. He's in that lane.
I'll say, and my thing, and I completely agree with you, by the way, that I'd put Paul over Stockton. The problem with Stockton, to me, is like, he just doesn't really ever peak high enough, right? Like, he has some good peaks, but he's more like longevity and consistency. Like, Chris Paul at his peak almost won an MVP award, runner-up behind Kobe. Hondo at his peak was leading, multiple championship teams. Kawhi Leonard at his peak was, leading a championship team and giving us one of the best postseason runs we'd ever seen. Like, I think that's kind of where you run into issues with Stockton. When we start talking about all these guys and playing at their absolute best, that's just kind of what kills him, because then he falls, really hard. So I love Stockton. Like, he's a great player, but yeah, I think he's definitely behind Chris Paul. I actually think he's behind Havlicek. And I think the first conversation you can really have with him, if we're just judging by this list, is he? You can probably keep him above like Kawhi Leonard and Jason Kidd, but I also think like James Harden jumps him. He's right. If he's not, he's right there. So
That's an interesting way to look at it. I never thought about that. I think you hit it on the head about Stockton. This isn't about criticizing his greatness, but you pointed out the very best version of John Stockton. The peak isn't that high. It's consistent. He's probably one of the most consistent players in NBA history, but the best version of Chris Paul is better than the best version of John Stockton.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another interesting name on here at 57, Luka. Luka's soaring up this list already. So that is quite the honor. The fact that he's like 26 or 27, and they already have him in the top 60.
I do think that's an honor. Yeah, I agree.
Say that's just crazy to think about.
But I want to point out, to be fair, he's earned it. If you think about this, he's already led a team to the finals. He's led a team to the conference finals a couple of times. And we're into his career. He's a 5-time All-Star and a 5-time All-NBA performer already. And he's 26 years old.
No, absolutely. And I'm just slowly going down the list. It's a lot of fun. And, I think, T-Mac at 60 is, T-Mac at 59 is a choice. Because
Wait,
I think
you think he's too low? I think he's high.
No. I think I think he's too high. That's kind of where I was going with saying he's a choice.
Oh, okay.
Like right behind him, like peak for peak, like T-Mac at his peak was insane. But if we're taking their entire career, what's the real argument for T-Mac over Melo?
I don't think he has one. I get they both didn't win titles, but at least Melo, as the team's best player, he took a team to the conference finals. T-Mac never came close to doing that.
No, absolutely. Oh, another beef I have, by the way, with this top 20 is they actually, like, in accolades, we're talking like counting ABA stuff. So, like, for example, at 100 next to Artis Gilmore, they're counting as like ABA MVP.
I like it. I actually have no problem with that, because I think baseball does that now, right? They incorporate old guy statistics and stuff like that. I think that if you're going to do it that way, it makes it interesting. If they're going to, so I have good for Artis Gilmore that suddenly he goes from being like a 6-time All-Star to like an 11-time All-Star, right?
Oh yeah, and my problem with that is if you're counting ABA stuff, then you put the ABA guys too low. Like
yes.
Dr. J, like as an NBA player, 20 is probably about right. But when you start adding in Dr. J's like ABA accomplishments, like that's a top 15 player right there.
Because doesn't Doc suddenly become a 3-time MVP? He becomes a two or 3-time champion. I think Doc elevates up into the top 15.
Yeah, say 3 MVP awards, 2 titles, and 2 Finals MVPs, including
right.
Absolutely destroying a Nuggets team that had like 3 Hall of Famers on it and future NBA players.
Right. If you're going to include that, then Doc's ahead of KD.
It's funny, when I originally did my first ever like all-time like list on TikTok, I had Doc at like 13, like including all of his ABA accolades.
Right.
So and also my problem too is like Artis Gilmore. If you're counting his ABA stuff, like, then what's the argument for him being all the way down at 100?
Right. If the A train is suddenly an 11-time All-Star and a multiple-time All-NBA player, he can't be 100 because there are guys ahead of him that don't have accolades like that.
No, absolutely. So, and like, I can't, like, once you start including that, like, now all of a sudden, like, I'm looking at the guys that's even right ahead of him, like, is all of a sudden Dave Bing, Klay Thompson, Bernard King, guys like that really ahead of Artis?
So obviously Bernard King was a scorer, Dave Bing was a scorer, combo guard. But you're right. In the bigger picture, what did they do to separate themselves and be better than Artis Gilmore? I don't think they did. And I think if you include his ABA career as a whole, he's more accomplished than they are overall.
Oh, picking on T-Mac, talking about replacing himself with Kobe. That's
Yeah.
only because he didn't have Kobe's opportunity.
That's a great line by Kyle, and I know it's tongue in cheek, but I agree with that. Like, the new thing is, if you replace Kobe and I'm there, that's the same three-peat. I would disagree.
What's up, Jory? Do y'all remember Butterbean Bob Love? Chicago
I do.
legend.
Played for Chicago Bulls. I remember him and him and Jerry Sloan. I think him and Jerry Sloan were both on the Bulls.
No, absolutely. And also, like, my other beef with this list is really just, I think they overrated role players that won rings. Like, the third and fourth options that won rings. Like, I promise you, Dennis Rodman is not the 67th greatest player to ever play the game of basketball.
He is not. He is not.
Like, what makes Rodman better than someone like Chris Webber?
So here's the interesting thing about the Rodman thing, right? This can almost take us sideways, and the chat can appreciate this. What puts Rodman ahead of Chris Webber, who is a better basketball player, by the way, Rodman has 5 titles. Now, the way I said that is Rodman has 5 titles. But if you actually followed his career, yes, he's been part of 5 titles. He has never been the best player on any one of those championship teams. He's never been the second best player. He's been the third guy. On the Pistons, one time he was the 4th guy. Great player, great complimentary player. But Chris Webber had teams built around him. You can't build around Dennis Rodman. It doesn't work that way.
And that's kind of my problem. Like, at the end of the day, he was a physical, great rebounder. He's a great defender, obviously, multiple DPOIs, but at the end of the day, he's a specialist. And I cannot say that a specialist is the 67th greatest player of all time.
He's not.
And I never want to hear, the one time I said that, by the way, I got told in a TikTok comment section, well, he could score if he wanted to. I'm like, no. Then why didn't he?
I'm not listening to that. I've heard that argument made about Tony Allen and a few other defensive players. Dennis Rodman didn't have a handle. He couldn't shoot. No, he couldn't score if he wanted to. Now, he might have been a scorer in college, but he disregarded all that and kind of found his lane in the NBA. And I can't go on the what if he wanted to. I can only go off the career that he had. And the career that he had, he's one of the greatest complimentary stars in NBA history. But when you're ranking the greatest 100 players of all time, he can't be ranked that high when he's not even better than somebody like Joe Dumars, who's ranked, you know what I mean? He's not better than Joe Dumars. He's not. He's not better than Isaiah Thomas, not better than Pippen, obviously not better than Jordan. And really, if we were going all the way, all around basketball player, he's not really. This guy's not in the top 100. I guarantee you he's not. But Dennis Rodman's not an all-around better basketball player than Horace Grant. That's just a fact. He's a better rebounder and a better defender, but he's not a better all-around player.
So who do you have over the other Rodman, Draymond Green? I don't think Draymond's a top 100 player in basketball history either.
I don't, but I guarantee you he's on this list. I guarantee you.
He is. He's at 88, right above Earl Monroe and Chris Webber.
That's almost where he should be ranked, but what we need to do is switch him and Artis Gilmore.
I mean, I think he should be even farther back.
Like 125, 150?
Yeah, I think he's in the top like 120, 25 conversation, but
look, you and me are coming from the same place.
Yeah, like I think both Rodman and Draymond are top 150 players. I think Rodman's closer to 150. I think Draymond's closer to 120. Like, it is what it is. I don't think either of them, though, are top 100.
They're not. And you could take another great role player who was a great defender, even though he's not on this list. But I think Bruce Bowen should be like 175 or somewhere in there, right? Like he is of cut of that same cloth. Rodman is a hard guy to rank. If you don't know how to rank him, what you don't do is rank him the 63rd greatest player of all time.
No, absolutely. And another guy that I think is ranked a little too high for my liking is actually also Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson just doesn't really. The problem with Klay Thompson is he's missing a lot of, accolades. He's a great defender who can get. He's an elite 3-point shooter. He's a great 3-and-D guy in his prime. But kind of just what we were saying earlier, like he was a great number 2 option. But are we sure that, for example, on this list they have him as the 98th best player of all time? If you want to sneak him into the top 100, it's like, sure, I'll listen to it. But I'm not sure if I can sneak a guy who, once again, can has one All-NBA third team into the top 100. Like, I just feel like that there's better options than Klay. I think Klay's great, and if you want to sneak him into this list, you can. But I also think that there are just a lot of guys that are also probably better than Klay Thompson.
I like Klay Thompson a lot. Don't forget, he was also at one point the third option on 2 championship teams. Like, acknowledge him for what he was, but you can't build a team around Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was the secondary option to Steph, and then the third when KD showed up. So, and I think I think he was a really good defender. I don't think he's an elite defender because it's not like Klay made all NBA defense 4, 5, 6 times. I think he did it once. I think Klay was a really good defender. I think there are better 2-way players than Klay Thompson. I don't think he should be ranked in the top 100.
So, yeah, it feels like this list just over-indexed rings way too hard. And if you won like 3 or 4 and you were an important part of that dynasty, then your spot in the top 100 was locked, even though I don't think that, it's completely, justified in some cases. Even a guy like, for example, they have James Worthy at 63. Like, I think they're definitely better players than James Worthy at 63.
Look, I'm a lifetime Laker fan. Love James Worthy, big game James. I don't think James Worthy should be ranked that high.
Hey, what's going on, Kenneth?
Did you say it's Thompson a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Klay Thompson. Yeah,
absolutely.
He's going to get into the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
No doubt about it. It's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Yeah, but yeah, no, those are just some of the beefs that I have with it. Otherwise, I always love reading different lists. They're a lot of fun.
The lists are fun because they spark up different kinds of conversations, and it's very rare where everybody's happy where they're ranked. Like, you and I don't think Klay Thompson should be in it. Somewhere Klay's at home going, how the hell I'm way back at 98? You know what I mean? Like, in Klay's mind, he should be where Worthy is.
Yeah, no, I remember when Top 75 came out and Klay was complaining he wasn't in that. So,
well, he shouldn't have been in it.
No,
he shouldn't have been in it. They have a lot of that. What do we call the sickness of recency bias? Like, you got to chill, man. There are way too many great 2 guards for Klay Thompson to be in the top 75. It can't happen. I'm curious, because you have the list in front of you, where is Clyde Drexler ranked?
Yeah, hunt him down real quick. Let's see. Clyde. Well, he is not in the top 20, not in the top 30. There he is, 39. Behind Bob Pettit, Bob Cousy, and Allen Iverson.
I actually think they have him ranked. I think that's about right, actually, for Clyde Drexler. I don't think that's a slap in the face at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I know another topic of conversation was Allen Iverson at 36.
Hey, yeah, it was. A lot of people did not like that.
I think it's fine. I think the problem with Allen Iverson is I think people over-index on his 2001 championship run, which it was great, but the problem is his career was a little longer than just 2001. And outside of 01, you have a lot of first-round exits, and then you have the back end of his career, which we can't ignore. He did play for the Nuggets and Pistons. So,
And I love how you hit on that. A lot of people take the title run, and what's the first thing they say to us, Brett? Guys, he took nothing to the finals, right? He took trash to the. I get it, not a great team, and he deserves all the credit for being the catalyst of that team, but they didn't win the title, and it's not like they went on another run like that the following year. They had that one amazing run, and that team was never really relevant from that point on. AI is a great individual talent, and he went on to still have great individual success, but I don't think you can put him as a top 20 player.
no, absolutely. Love me some, like I said, love me some, say, AI. He was great, but yeah. So where's Grant Hill? Grant Hill was at 79. Where's Timmy at? Timmy was at, I know he's in the top 10 yet. Tim Duncan, number 7.
So I think you would agree with me. I think Grant Hill was better than James Worthy. And I think James Worthy was terrific in what he did for the Lakers, but I think Grant Hill was a better basketball player.
No, and that's absolutely fair. I think he was a better player too. Obviously, what he has is that Worthy has that Finals MVP, which I think gives him a little boost in a lot of cases. But you know what? I'm down for it. But at the end of the day, he didn't have the longevity that someone like Worthy had.
Right. So here's the funny thing. You hear enough NBA fans go, well, if T-Mac had replaced Kobe with Shaq, not saying they three-peat, but T-Mac would have won a couple of rings. Well, I'll go another route. You replaced James Worthy with prime Grant Hill. I think the Lakers win more than 5 titles.
Say Worthy has 3 championships in that Finals MVP. He does, and
he absolutely does. But he also has the fact that he was never the best player. He has a Finals MVP, but he was the third guy for the bulk of that whole Showtime run. Even at the end of the Showtime era, where Kareem was gone, Magic was older. Worthy wasn't the lead. He was a second. I think he was the second leading scorer. Magic might have been the leading scorer. Worthy was a great player, but he was kind of in that lane where Klay Thompson was. He was mostly the third guy.
Say, you guys think a player is too high or too low? Please say the player who you replace said player with. There's like a list of players that I'd replace someone like Dennis Rodman with, who I thought was just a much better player than him.
We just mentioned him. We just mentioned Grant Hill.
I think like literally everybody else that they pretty much named in the back end of the top 100, especially someone like Chris Webber, even someone, for example, who peaked way higher who was a better player. I'd take Amari Stoudemire in my team over Dennis Rodman.
Where's Amari at?
He's not in the top 100.
Ooh, rough.
Like, okay. There's a decent list of players. I think Rodman's a top 150 player. I just don't think that when we're talking top 100, I think that's a little too generous for him.
So here's the interesting thing. When we talk about the greatest players, and I'm talking about the guys who were the focal point or the number 2 option on teams that won multiple titles, I get where they're coming from. Like Kenneth brings up, Rodman's got 5 titles. Yeah, we said all that. He has all those things. You know what he also never was? He was never the best player on any of his teams. He was never the second best player on any of his teams. He's an important piece to all those teams, but you can build a team around Isaiah Thomas. You can build a team around Michael Jordan. You can't build a team around Dennis Rodman.
And in a lot of those finals, Rodman's minutes just kept like going down as the playoffs went on. Like
Look,
His
let's
minutes,
let's keep it a buck.
drop.
Let's keep it a buck. Those last 2 championships on the Bulls, in the regular season, Dennis Rodman averaged like 16 rebounds a game. But in those 2 matchups against the Jazz, he averaged single-digit rebounds. You know why? Because he was going up against one of the greatest power forwards of all time. And Karl Malone reminded him, I weigh 260, you weigh 220. I'm bigger and stronger than you. He couldn't do anything with Karl Malone. Remember, they started playing Bison Daly more minutes than Dennis Rodman because he was a tougher matchup for Karl Malone. So remember, Rodman a complimentary player, and he was terrific in the series versus the Sonics. But in the 2 final series versus the Jazz, he was a rider. He was definitely a bus rider then because he wasn't even getting the bulk of the minutes.
And say Barkley over Rodman, absolutely. And to be clear, like, I don't have a problem with Dennis Rodman. I think that he was an important piece to those Bulls team. And they did need Dennis Rodman to make it, through the playoffs and the bulk of the regular season. He was an elite defender. Like I said, I have a problem putting someone who, at the end of the day, can't be really considered more than a defensive specialist in the top.
Yeah,
in the top 100. Like, if he has 4 DPOIs, if I added a title to his name, would we start talking about Rudy Gobert top 100?
Right. And I love what Kenneth said. I agree. Right. Rodman is no less than a top 10 defensive player. I agree with that. I think he's one of the 10 greatest defensive players of all time. That doesn't change the fact that you can't build a team around a complementary player. The same way wherever Rudy Gobert goes, he's a huge piece to whatever team he does, but the team's not built around Rudy. Rudy's a complement to whoever the star is, the number 1 option is. Same for Dennis Rodman. And like I said, those last 2 titles in that postseason, Dennis was almost less than what he had ever been. He was not playing the bulk of the minutes. He was splitting time. So, again, I think he's a great complementary piece. But when you say greatest players of all time, he shouldn't be ranked that high. He shouldn't be ranked. If Artis Gilmore's 100 and we're starting there, Dennis should be nowhere near the 60s.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'm excited to the 04 Pistons. The Pistons in 04 couldn't have won with Rodman instead of Ben Wallace.
No, they couldn't have because Ben Wallace was undersized and it took everything he had to guard Shaq. Dennis Rodman couldn't slow down Shaquille O'Neal. He couldn't bother him. He couldn't do anything with him. The Pistons, if you switch those 2 out, it works out great for my Lakers. We win that series. It's a completely different series. That's not even close. Remember the year David Robinson won the MVP, and he got to the playoffs, and Hakeem Olajuwon ate him alive. Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Who did they switch and put on Hakeem Olajuwon to say maybe you can slow him down? It was Dennis Rodman. You know what Dennis Rodman got done? Hakeem Olajuwon ate him alive too. And then they put David Robinson back on him. As great as Dennis Rodman was, there is no great center that Dennis Rodman can guard.
I think the other thing with Ben Wallace is on offense, he really was an elite screener. He could buy his players a lot of space with his screens, and he could still roll to the basket. Like, his ability in the pick and roll to free up his offensive pieces, I think that also is just a lot better than, what you would get with Rodman, who I think would give him more of a playmaking edge. But I think the screening of Wallace just kind of helps them more, especially when a big part of the offense is, hey, we're going to run Rip Hamilton off 87 pin downs until he gets open. So I think just fundamentally, what Ben Wallace brought to the table with just being a bigger, physical screener just helped a ton.
And look, everybody out there listening, chat, Kenneth, anybody listening to us, I'm a huge Dennis Rodman fan. I'm not negating anything about how great he was as a defender. I think his defense was amazing. But what he impressed me with his size that he led the league in rebounding 7 years in a row. That is amazing to me because rebounding is an effort thing, and Dennis Rodman would outwork most people.
No, absolutely. And that's something important too, by the way, talking about this. I don't dislike any of these players. It sounds like I probably dislike Rodman, and that's okay. The reality is I don't. I just try to be unbiased as much as I can be.
I agree with that statement too, Kenneth. That's a fact. That is a fact. Dennis Rodman is great at defense and great at rebounding. 100% agree. And even that being said, though, he's still a complimentary player. Like nobody's going to start their franchise. If we hold a draft right now and we had a fantasy draft with the chat, I'd be interested to see who drafted Dennis Rodman 1, because I don't think anybody is.
I'd say the problem too, like he is obviously elite rebounder, elite defender. Offensively, what does he really provide outside of offensive rebounds? Like he was a fine passer if the play was developing right in front of him, but after that, it's just pretty brutal. After that, it's really what holds back Rodman is his lack of really doing much of anything on offense outside of snagging offensive rebounds. And that's kind of what prevents him, because if he had even a semblance of an offensive game, then you probably could build something around him. Even if he had the offensive package of like Parawantic, like you could build something around that with Dennis Rodman's defense. But the problem is he's just a non-factor on that end of the floor unless he was grabbing offensive boards.
You know what, though? You and Kenneth both brought up a great idea. If Dennis Rodman averaged, I'm not even talking about nothing crazy, but let's say he averaged 12 points a game to go along with everything else. So now you're talking 12 points, 16, 17 rebounds, and the elite level defending where he can defend basically every position. Well, not the Bulls, Dennis Rodman, but Dennis Rodman with the Pistons could guard every single position at an elite level. I think a Dennis Rodman that averaged 12 points a game, he's basically a modern day Bill Russell.
I'll say if he just developed even like a 15-footer, then that's a completely different story. Like, I just think it's so important ranking these players. Like, defensively, you can be the anchor, and I think the fact that Dennis Rodman being such like a negative offensively, the fact that he is in the top like a 150 combos is impressive enough. That's how elite his defense and rebounding were. But if if you can't be if you're like a fourth or fifth option offensively, and for part of your career you're at the end you're splitting minutes with players who just aren't as talented, and we're trying to compare that to someone, for example, like even like a Blake Griffin, who even a couple of years before he retired was making all NBA teams with the Pistons in 18-19, then it's just tough. It's not anything against Rodman. It's just comparing all-time great accolades and longevity. It gets real nitpicky. So it's really nothing against Rodman. It's just when we're comparing against other guys that also have longevity and more accolades and better numbers and can also not only play defense, maybe not as good as Rodman, but also are just much better offensively. It's just tough for me to put Rodman in top 100 combos at that point.
And I don't disagree with what you just said, Kenneth. I watched that series. I thought Rodman should have got some love for Finals MVP. I really believe that. I thought he should have got some love. I'm not saying he should have won it, but if he had won it, I wouldn't have thought that was crazy. He seemed to get every key rebound, make every key defensive play in that series. So I understand that. I thought he was the key piece the final 2 games of the series. So I agree.
Yeah, like I said, I have nothing but respect for Rodman, and the fact that people are talking about him in top 100 conversations to me is just a testament to how elite his defense was and his rebounding. Like the fact he's being talked about in top 100, top 150 combos.
Yeah,
it's just a testament to his greatness. a bizarro Charles Barkley. Barkley was an awesome scorer and rebounder. Hey, no need to apologize. This is what we're here for. We love the discussion.
Yeah, and by the way, Kenneth, I'm a big Rodman and Pippen fan too. I just wish Scotty would talk less.
Oh, say, where they? I forgot. I think they had Scotty in the top like 30. Oh yeah, there he is at 28.
I think that's right about where he should be ranked.
Yeah.
Where do they think he should be ranked? Not top 20.
You say I think that's about right for him. Do you think Scotty was lower because he had MJ on his team? No, I think Pippen was lower because like he left Chicago. Ironically, he left Chicago and had the failed, disastrous big three with Hakeem and Barkley. And when we're talking after that, like he had a little bit of a resurgence with the Blazers and almost, knocked off the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. But I think your real knock on Scottie Pippen is before he started peaking in the early 90s, he was, slowly improving. But the real knock is he leaves Chicago, and what does he really do after he leaves Chicago? He has a blow up with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley and like almost beat the Lakers, but unfortunately, we can't move you up or down places on an all-time list because you almost did something.
Well, and remember, that first year where they almost beat the Lakers, that was the peak of that Portland team. They never came close to doing anything else the rest of the time he was there. Look, I think Scotty's terrific, and I could give him his flowers. I don't think he's not a top 20 player. He's a great player, but he was never the guy. He had the benefit of playing with the guy.
Pippen was old, but he left the Bulls. Yeah, but the problem is, like, when you're making these all-time lists, is your career still continues, so you kind of have to take it into consideration, right?
Isn't that the crazy part? That's crazy.
Like, that's kind of the risk of, playing for too long, is you start looking like a shell of who you once were. And that's almost kind of just what happened with Scotty. He had that last great title run with the Bulls and then just really fell off after when he got older. Fell off pretty quickly. So, like I said, I respect Scotty. I do think he's a top 30 player of all time, and his peak was great. He even led a 55-win team without MJ to the playoffs. And it was a great run. So, just once we get into older Pippen, though, it's not as pretty, and that's definitely what holds him back. How do they have Jason Kidd over Drexler? It's always so interesting. Jason Kidd, I actually kind of don't mind that because when we watched peak Jason Kidd, he was leading a surprise finals run, and then he did it again. And then they almost won a third year in a row, except the Pistons beat him in the 7th game. So, prime Jason Kidd is arguably the greatest defender at the point guard position and also one of the best transition finishers of that time and one of the best passers of that time.
You know what, though? I'm okay with him asking that question. That's a great question, John, because prime Clyde Drexler took Portland to 2 finals. And you know what I mean? We always talk about, is he good enough to be the best player and a title contender? Drexler took the Blazers to 2 finals. He loses to, obviously, the bad boy Pistons. Then he loses to Jordan's Bulls in 6. I don't know if I would have Jason Kidd ahead of him either. I don't, because look what, like, they both got older. Older Jason Kidd was a complimentary star on the team that beat the Heat, but he wasn't the first or second guy. Clyde Drexler was the second guy past his prime on that Houston team that won the title. And he was going up against prime Penny Hardaway, and Drexler drops 29, 9, and 7 at that age in the NBA Finals. That's greatness.
No, absolutely. I actually think it's a great question. I don't mind it going either way. I just understand both sides when we're talking, especially like with Kidd. Like, Jason Kidd was like, I don't know how to say it, but he's the biggest 6'4" guy I may have ever seen. Like, he's massively strong for being a 6'4" point guard and can have the quickness to keep up with every guard, but
No,
can
I'm
also
with you.
bang with a lot of forwards. Like his defensive versatility, along with his transition and finishing around the rim, was just absolutely so fantastic for that time.
You know what, Kenneth? That's a great idea. We should take calls. I'm with you. I think that's something we're going to work on. And look, I think Jason Kidd, I agree with you, Brett, because I remember Gary Payton was 6'3", 6'4", and he was nowhere near the size of Jason Kidd.
No, absolutely. And by the way, we do have another fun topic for you guys today. We're actually going to do a little bit of a ranking game. So, because this kind of plays off some news that we had today, Damian Lillard is heading back home. He is going back to Portland on a 3-year, $42 million contract. Not only, I love that for, Dame, good for you, you got your money. And then a debate broke out, Mo, and I thought we'd turn it into a whole topic and a whole segment of not only making every NBA team's Mount Rushmore, but what if we ranked every single player ranked the players on said Mount Rushmore?
I like that. I like where you're going with this.
So, I figured, for example, why don't we start with the Portland Trailblazers? Now, I think we can make sure that I put in the right 4 players. So I got Clyde Drexler, Dame, and Bill Walton. I think those 3 are absolute locks. The 4th guy, I have LaMarcus Aldridge, but I will also take arguments for Terry Porter.
Terry Porter. A lot of people will bring up Brandon Roy, but I guess because his career was cut short, not Brandon Roy. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That I don't know if you can move out Aldridge, but the only guy you could move out, in my opinion, of that 4 would be Aldridge.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. And that's what I was thinking too. I think he's the only guy. I think the first 3 are locks, like Clyde, Dame, Bill Walton. Absolute locks for this franchise. So I put, threw in LaMarcus. And by the way, just to make it clear too, Chad, we're only ranking them for what they did for this team. And that's important kind of going forward for this topic. So
right. So here's the key. Walton gave the Blazers their first and only NBA championship. You're never going to beat that, right? He also was an MVP and a finals MVP.
Absolutely. So would you put Jason Williams as a top 25 passer if you could? As a passer of the basketball, like Jason
started.
Williams was terrific.
Don't get me started.
You know what's funny, Mo? I might listen to an argument if we just stick with the word passer. If we change that word to playmaker, absolutely not. Passer? Okay, he was an excellent passer of the basketball.
Yes, he was a terrific passer. I will give him the nod on that. But if you go full blown, where would you rank Jason Williams, the basketball player? He's not ranked. We're like we were talking about guys being 150. I guess 250, 3, somewhere in there.
No, absolutely. And
he wasn't a good basketball player. He was overrated.
He definitely was overrated. Those flashy passes really tricked a lot of people.
He has. I will give him this. To this day, Jason Williams. We're talking about white chocolate from the Kings and Grizzlies. He has one of the greatest highlight reels in the history of the NBA. But his actual career, he wasn't a good basketball player. Not offensively or defense. He was horrible defensively, but he was horrible offensively too because he couldn't shoot. He was a bricklayer. He didn't become a half-decent shooter till he became a role player, and he was well past his prime on the Heat. But there's a reason the Kings got better when they got rid of him, because Mike Bibby was a better shooter and a better defender.
Oh, absolutely. So I guess so I think we can both agree on this one, Mo. We'd probably put LaMarcus Aldridge last out of these 4.
Easily. Like I said, if anybody in the chat wants to bring up a name that you think could replace Aldridge, I'm good with it. I don't Terry Porter is a big name for them.
Sheed.
Sheed probably would be the first name to come to my mind. Rasheed Wallace could be the guy you replace, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But those are the only two. I can't count Brandon Roy only because we got a 2, maybe 3-year window of Brandon Roy because of his injuries. But there's no doubt in my mind Brandon Roy was going to be a beast. But I think Sheed is the only guy that can move him out.
Yeah, I'd say Brandon Roy, if he stayed healthy, would have easily been up here. No doubt about it. And then I guess who do you have at number 3? Is it Dame or is it Bill Walton?
I got Bill Walton behind Drexler.
Okay. See, I think this is interesting.
Or Drexler behind Bill Walton, however you want to do it.
See, I think it's interesting for the number 3 spot because obviously Bill Walton had a higher peak than Dame, winning the MVP, Finals MVP, and the Finals. But with Dame, you just had what was it before he got traded? A decade of elite guard play, and now they're going to get another 2 years of Dame. Another 3 years of Dame after, this year. And I guess it's, would you prefer the peak or the longevity of Dame?
Look, you're right. Dame was a greater player than Bill Walton for a longer time. But if we're going to go that route, so is Drexler. So really, Walton should be 3 on this list. But this is where we dangerously go into a whole nother conversation because the only reason Walton is here is for that small window of work where he led them to their only title. We're in 2025 and the Blazers have won 1 title in their history. That's because of Bill Walton. Yeah, Mo Lucas is a great player, but he played with Bill Walton, and he wasn't better than Bill Walton. But you definitely can make a case that Mo Lucas was better than Aldridge.
No, absolutely. So
so I'm with you. I could go Dame 1, Drexler 2, and maybe Walton's 3 because it's the funny thing is if you look at Walton's body of work with the Blazers, it actually isn't any longer than Brandon Roy's. The only difference is he got the championship, the MVP, and the Finals MVP.
Yeah, it's funny. Off the top, when I first looked at this, and I probably stick with this, I actually went Bill Walton at 3 would have been higher, but he had a 4-year run with the Blazers. It just happened to be eventful between 78 and 79.
Right.
When actually Dame at 2, because I think Clyde also had longevity in Portland. Not only that, is he did lead his team to multiple finals.
Right.
I think Dame is the second greatest Blazer of all time, but if you want to argue that Damian Lillard is the best Blazer of all time, it's a conversation I am willing to listen to, but I still think that honor does belong to Clyde Drexler.
I'm there. I think it's close. If people want to say it's Dame, I don't think that's a crazy take. In the end, Clyde did not win a title with the Blazers, but I think it is something that you're good enough to be the best player and lead a team to the finals, and he didn't do it once. He did it twice, and he was about to do it a third time in 1990, and a Lakers team that had no business going to the finals upset them to go to the finals.
And the thing with Clyde too is he has a lot of accolades that Dame just doesn't. We're talking about what was it, 5 All-NBAs, 2 finals appearances, and a couple of those All-NBAs are coming at a time where, All-NBA second teams at a time where, you're trying to compete with Michael Jordan for shooting guard. So this is a guy who was playing at the level of an All-NBA first teamer. The problem is when you're competing with the greatest of all time for the All-NBA first team spot, chances are you're not going to get the All-NBA first team spot.
And he did, remember, when they played the Bulls in 92, Jordan showed for sure the separation between him and Drexler. But Drexler wasn't terrible in that series. The man averaged 27, 7, and 7. He balled. He showed you what he was. He just was going up against the guy.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, I can consider Terry for that spot over LaMarcus Aldridge, but it was tough. That fourth spot for this was tough. So
Brett, real quick, LaMarcus Aldridge. It's funny to think about it now. People treated LaMarcus Aldridge back then the way people treat Karl Anthony Towns right now.
I remember. Hey, I always loved LaMarcus Aldridge, but that's also because I'm still convinced he shot 100% on post fadeaways. That his touch on his jumper was the most softest thing ever. I loved watching it.
It was money. Incredibly talented and skilled. Man, imagine him getting to play with Dame at his peak, what that could have looked like.
Absolutely. I still remember that 2015 Blazers team, or was it 2014-15? That could have been so good because it was Dame, Wes Matthews, Nick Batum, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Robin Lopez.
Is that the one that also had guys like Travis Outlaw, or was it Bo Outlaw? They had a bunch of long, athletic guys. They were really deep.
Yeah, and then before that team could really take off, then obviously they lost LaMarcus to the Spurs, and Wes Matthews went to the Mavericks. So why don't we move on to our next team, though? So let us know, by the way, your guys' Mount Rushmore and what order you'd rank them in. We went with, ironically, I put them all in order: Clyde, Dame, Bill, and then LaMarcus Aldridge for the Portland Trailblazers. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? This one I feel just
number one is easy. Number
one's a lock.
Yeah,
the
big ticket. Come on, it's a lock.
I actually think number 2 is a lock for right now as well, with Karl Anthony Towns. With his longevity and the fact that he was, obviously helped the Wolves make their first Western Conference Finals in forever, I think that would put him over, someone like Kevin Love.
Okay, so if we agree that number 2 is there because of his longevity and that he had the success getting to the conference finals, then that would mean that Ant would also be ahead of Kevin Love. Because for all his numbers that he put up in Minnesota, Kevin Love didn't lead them to any playoff success. I don't even know if he led them to the playoffs, actually.
He didn't. And yeah, I would agree. I think the 4 players I got are actually correct, but I think I would flip Ant and Kevin Love, and I would put KG, Cat, and then K-Love. K-Love was the beast, but unfortunately in Minnesota, that just didn't really translate to winning basketball games. Granted, he had some really bad teams around him, but
he did.
When you have guys like Alexei Shved, Chase Budinger on your team, it's not a great time, but there just wasn't a lot of success for us to really move us anything higher than 4.
No, but I remember Kevin Love putting up numbers. That's all I know. And he did it against some of the best players in the NBA. So I don't want it to make it look like Kevin Love wasn't a ball. The guy could ball. But if you look at the rosters that he played with those 3-4 years, there were some of the worst rosters in the NBA, period.
Oh, they absolutely were. So it's always tough with him, but I'm glad that he went to Cleveland and got his ring and the respect that he deserves, honestly.
Had a good career.
He deserved it after that fiasco.
Real quick, Brett, I think, and I could be wrong, I think Kevin Love still gets into the Hall of Fame.
I think so, too.
Right?
No, I think so, too. John's got KG and Cat and Rudy. Okay.
So I'm not mad at you because I thought about it. The only reason Cat had the success in the conference finals is because Ant became his teammate. So yeah, you could flip Ant and Cat, and I don't think that's crazy. You threw me off a little bit. You could, yeah, I guess you could go with Rudy because Rudy is the linchpin defensively. And he was a big part of their playoff successes. Look, as great as Kevin Love is as an individual talent, he didn't lead them to he never participated in the playoffs as a member of the Timberwolves. So Yeah, I don't have no problem with that. That John, I'm good with that too.
No, you know what?
I don't know if I would go Rubio and Sam Mitchell over. I wouldn't take Rubio and Sam Mitchell over Sam Cassell and Sprewell.
I'll say I am fully open to putting Rudy. Oh, sorry, that's next. Rudy in on the Minnesota, Mount Rushmore over K Love. I'm down for it. I just think the thing with Ant is I don't think the longevity's there yet. Like with Bill Walton, it was okay. He had a great peak, but he only played 4 years. Ant spent like a decade, hanging out in Minnesota. And it did help lead that, our initial playoff run with Jimmy Butler back in 2017. So
that's facts. He deserves credit for that. I got that.
I think Ant will surpass him. I think Ant will jump to number 2. I think Ant could win an MVP, possibly win a finals, and jump KG at 1.
Yeah, I would. But yeah, I'm going to go as far as what you just said. Given time, eventually Ant will be 1 and KG will be 2, but that's not going to happen right away.
Yeah, I just need more time before I put Ant over, Cat, and then I think he has a chance at KG, but that'll be tough. So I guess, Mo, do you agree with John's amendment? Because I'm down for it. So
yeah, I think
KG,
John, I'm good at
KG, Cat, and then Rudy. Okay, I'm here for it.
I love it, John. Good on you. That's a good one.
Next, why not Utah? Now I got Karl Malone, John Stockton, Rudy Gobert, and Adrian Dantley.
So automatically somebody is going to say Donovan Mitchell. Somebody is going to say Darren Williams, right? Somebody will say that. I'm not saying I would say that. I think you have the 4 correct players. I think it is those 4. But somebody will bring up Mitchell. Somebody will bring up D. Will. Somebody might even bring up Carlos Boozer, but I don't know what for.
The debate for the last spot for me was
Pistol Pete,
Rudy or Pistol Pete.
Yeah.
And the Rudy, the ability to anchor such bad defenses to top 10, take them into the playoffs, and still win 3 DPOIs. To me, that insane level of floor raising and what he did on the defensive end kind of carried him over, Pistol Pete for me. But I completely also understand the idea of, Pistol Pete being up here too. It's so funny. At the end of the day, the problem, I guess, with Pistol Pete is he was the number 1 option on bad teams.
Bad teams, right. Look, and how do I quantify? So here's the thing. You and I know, because we're historians, that Pistol Pete is one of the greatest college basketball players of all time, right? And then he goes to the pros and he's on the Jazz. How do I quantify him putting up numbers on a team to get the brakes beat off of him every night? If I'm going to say, well, Pistol Pete put up numbers and they didn't have success, but he was great, then wouldn't I have to reconsider and leave Kevin Love on the other squad? Do you know what I'm saying? It's one of those conversations, Brett, that wherever you lean, you almost lean into a whole nother conversation about ring culture, right? Oh, because Pistol Pete didn't win, that means he wasn't great. I think this is different. He didn't just win. He never participated in the postseason. So it wasn't that he just didn't win. He was a terrific basketball player, but he didn't really make anybody better. He didn't better his teammates. If you want to put Pistol Pete in the top 4, I don't think it's crazy because he was a terrific scorer. But on the flip side, I wouldn't have a problem with Rudy Gobert being a guy who was a linchpin of a team that went to the playoffs multiple times, and he won, I believe, 3 TPOYs. I think that was every bit as impactful.
And I know we had like the conversation earlier with for example with Rodman and being like a 4th or 5th option, and I think that it is impactful for you to actually be like a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd option. But to be a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd option on a successful playoff team, I think that really is an important qualifier for that, right? And I think in this situation too, I think this kind of applies in this kind of the opposite where I'm thinking of Pistol Pete. He put up these massive numbers, but there really wasn't any real playoff runs when it came to Pistol Pete. Whereas Rudy, okay, he was the defensive anchor, but he anchored some really bad lineups into a top 10 unit and helped, carry the team into the playoffs. Obviously, with Donovan Mitchell doing, work on the offensive end.
Right. Well, I think you just brought up a point. And by the way, we have a guy in the top 4 who was primarily a scorer, not much of a defender, but he did take the Jazz to the playoffs. We already have that. That's Adrian Dantley. Like, I don't think you need 2 Adrian Dantleys. We already got an Adrian Dantley. And he at least he participated in the postseason. Pistol Pete basically was the best player on multiple lottery teams.
No, absolutely. Saying with Pistol Pete too. Say Pistol Pete at the end of the day has playoff appearances, but that was with the Hawks. And then he made one more with the Celtics, and that wasn't the pistol anymore. That was the water gun. Like that, he was done with the Celtics.
Yeah, that Pistol Pete was about as impactful as Shaq on the Celtics.
Rudy over. There's a couple fun names too, by the way, Mo. Darren Williams and Daryl Griffith.
Sure, I said D. Will would get mentioned. I said that Dr. Duncanstein, terrific player. I don't remember if Dr. Duncanstein led the Jazz to the playoffs. He might have. And maybe he should get some consideration. But again, remember, Rudy did that multiple times, and Rudy was all NBA defense multiple times as well in that period, winning DPOY. So I think what he and Mitchell had was a great partnership. Mitchell ran the offense, and Rudy was the focal point of the defense. I don't know if Daryl Griffin had that kind of success.
Say Griffith. Say Daryl, I think he made six playoff appearances, I believe. I think if you want to make an argument for like Daryl Griffith or Darren Williams, I think it's there. Like I said, I just keep thinking back to not only the fact that the Jazz were top 10 defensive units with Rudy, the pieces that were around him too, like they were so bad. Like they had no business being a top 10 defensive unit. Like I'm watching him run a lot lineups like Bojan Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, and all three are just awful defenders. And then like the only perimeter defender they had was like 34-year-old Mike Conley.
Right.
And I'm just like, I'm still sitting here trying to figure out like how in the world is this a top 10 defense? And there was only one explanation. It was Rudy protecting the rim, forcing teams into tough middies and threes because they didn't want to come in and test Rudy.
I agree. I'm with you. And look, like I said, D. Will was terrific. Him and Boozer were kind of like the pseudo, if you want to say it, Stockton and Malone, even though they didn't have that type of success, but they were a really terrific two-man tandem. And they've had some. And D. Will was a terrific player. Like there was a window where people thought D. Will or Chris Paul for a while. So I don't mind anybody mentioning those names because they were terrific players. So I'm good with somebody mentioning John bringing up Daryl Griffin and D. Will because they're deserving. I have no problem with that. I would just say that you could probably move out Dantley. I still think you could move Dantley out before you could move Rudy out.
So I think I actually ordered the first two, right? I think Malone's the best player in Jazz history, and then it's John Stockton.
Yep.
3, then I guess would you say 3? I guess if we're going between Rudy or Dantley, like I said, unless you want to throw out some more names that we could possibly switch them with, I would probably honestly go. Dantley was an elite scorer, but I would probably go Rudy and then Dantley. I love Dantley's scoring. He's a weird case of every single team he left got better after he left. And Rudy, every time he goes to a team, he gives them at least a floor of making the playoffs.
Dantley was a great scorer, but he was he wasn't just an isolation player. He was a black hole. If he got the ball, it wasn't coming back out. And he wasn't going to do a lot on the defensive end of the floor either.
He is what, the reputation Carmelo Anthony got of being a black hole in the 2010s. Adrian Dantley was like the 1970s version of that.
I totally agree with that. John said he likes Mark Eaton over Rudy. Yeah, I think before we even did the show, I thought about that. But the more I thought about it, I think Rudy is a better player than Mark Eaton because Rudy can at least play in space to some degree. He can move his feet. What I remember about Mark Eaton was if he wasn't in the paint, he was getting blown by. He had no lateral quickness at all. Like Mark Eaton lived in the paint. He was kind of a stiff. The name you just brought up, I think Karolinko has a better case than Mark Eaton. I love AK-47.
You know what's funny? I think Rudy gets underrated too a bit because of the era that he plays in. That this is a guy that he does have to guard the three-point line and defend in space and do a lot of things that a lot of bigs back in the day just didn't really have to do. Like back in the day, like your spacing was like to 15 feet and in.
Right.
So like they didn't never really have to step all the way out to the three-point line. They didn't really have to spend in all that much space. So I think in almost a victim of his own era, it kind of kills Rudy a bit because I think he gets underrated because, yeah, he has to defend a lot more space than some of these guys in the past. Like, if Rudy got to play in an era where they're playing like 10 feet in, yeah, he's averaging like 8 blocks a game.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. He is averaging close to 10 blocks a game. I'm glad you said that.
Like, I think he would be almost defensively if you let him play back in that same era as like an Eaton or Mutombo. He's probably stealing Mutombo's DPOIs. Like he is that good. He is that quick. Like,
well, he's more athletic. He's more athletic than Mutombo. We both would agree, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Whatever you think of Mutombo, and I'm not taking away that he was a great rim protector, but Rudy would be like Mutombo on steroids.
Yeah, say Mutombo, it makes sense for the era. He really bulked up and went for the strength. Rudy's more just athletic and can defend a lot more space. So I would love. He's one player that I would love to see play back in the day. Give me Rudy in like the 80s where the spacing wasn't all that great. And I want to see him just block like 20 shots in a game because it just might happen.
Yeah, Rudy would be putting up Bill Russell defensive like numbers. I think his blocks would go up. I think his rebounding would be insane, like not 12 rebounds a game, but now we're talking 15. Like I think he would be insane in that era because of what he could do.
Oh, fair enough. So I think we can agree, Mo, then this is probably in the right order with Malone, Stockton, Rudy, and then Dantley.
Yeah, but I love that John brought up names that should be revered. Maravich, great scorer. D. Will was one of the top point guards in a 4 or 5 year window. Daryl Griffin had the crazy hops, exciting player. And yeah, I thought of Mark Eaton, and I like Mark Eaton, and he's a familiar name, but I don't think Mark Eaton's not a better player than Rudy Gobert. He's a bigger man, but he's not a better player.
No, I agree with that. I say, why don't we talk about another franchise? We got the Denver Nuggets. I think one is undisputed. Nikola Jokic is the best player in that team's history. Number 2 got put Alex English after him. Number 3, we got Melo. And number 4, the Skywalker, David Thompson.
Wow.
Now, we got to respect David Thompson because a lot of your favorite players, they molded their game after the Skywalker. Most notably, a young kid out of Carolina named MJ. He was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
I know
him. And I believe David Thompson played at NC State when he was in college. So, yeah, there's a correlation there. Look, I what I know of David Thompson, I watched some like old highlight reels, but insanely athletic. Like he was definitely another sub 40-inch vertical guy. Could hang in the air. He had a great midi. Could put the ball on the floor. He reminded me a lot of Dwayne Wade defensively. Like as a guard, he's challenging bigs at the rim. Like the Skywalker he was an amazing player that unfortunately his career got cut short because of all kind of knee injuries and things like that. One of my favorite players that get lost in time when I was coming up as a kid, John just mentioned him. He said Fat Lever. Lafayette Fat Lever was one of those guards that was doing the triple-double thing way back then. Fat Lever was a terrific basketball player, terrific two-way player. And like David Thompson, injuries robbed him of a lot of his career. But yeah, Fat Lever was dope. I don't think Fat Lever replaces anybody on this list. Like he wasn't dope that long. Denver's had a lot of great players. I don't know anybody that I can think of better than these four players. Alex English led the NBA in scoring, I believe, multiple times. His 10 to 12 foot jump shot, silkiest jump shot you'll ever see, unblockable. Then you got Melo, who he was the first, I guess, power small forward that I ever saw. Like he's a small forward, but he weighed 245 pounds. Like could rip through defenders' arms. And the Nuggets Melo, in my opinion, is the best version of Melo because the Nuggets Melo has his legs. The Nuggets Melo has hops. He's not just shooting on people, he's dunking on people. That's the best version of Melo, in my opinion. I would have it. Joker's one. We don't even have to debate one. Look what happened, Brett. John just mentioned the name I talked about that somebody would bring up. Dan Issel. Yeah, great player. Great player.
By the way,
if you combine Dan Issel's ABA numbers with his NBA numbers, even greater.
By the way, Jory, we always love talking basketball history. It's a lot of fun. We're glad you're entertained.
Thank you, Jory. Appreciate you. I'll let you decide on this one, partner. I don't know who I would decide between English and Melo. I want to give Melo the edge, but I think Alex English did play in a couple of conference finals. He lost them, but I think he played in a couple of them.
Alex English, I think his case is more so like he held a lot of like the franchise records while being there. Like he said, he's in their leader books a lot. Relative to Melo, who led more deeper playoff runs, Alex English is more so the guy that just continuously like put up numbers for them, and he's in a lot of their record books. So
I think he has sneaky numbers too, because I believe Alex English is the player that led the 80s in points scored. It's not Michael Jordan. I think it's Alex English.
No, he was. And then he spent quite a few years in the playoffs. He led Denver to a lot of playoffs too. Just not, as much, maybe not as much success as some guys, but you know what? He did have a couple of deep runs. So personally, I would go Alex English and then Melo.
And I'm okay with that. I think it's a great list. These are all terrific players. The easiest thing was to decide number one.
I will, and then fun fact, obviously, Alex English was a part of the highest scoring game in NBA history. 1984, Pistons, I think it was Pistons Nuggets, ended in 186 to 184 final score. That is
crazy.
It's a funny game to watch because I don't think anybody misses it. Like, we can say there's some bad defense in there, but there are just some shots where you're just like, what in the world? Why are these going in?
I would have loved to watch that. I never watched that game. I've heard about it. I never watched it. But I would watch it. Look, John, I think you have to have Jamal Murray as one, not the only one, but one of the honorable mentions because obviously he's the co-pilot of a team that won a title with the Nuggets. So he's deserving, but he wouldn't be. I don't know where we would rank him because, again, it's not just winning titles. It's the career that you had. And where he's going to come up short is he's never even made an all-star team.
By the way, Mo, if you want to watch it, the full game's actually, or say the full game's on YouTube. It's like 2 hours and 48 minutes long.
I am actually out of town, partner, and like you, I'm a basketball addict. So when you tease me like that, when the show is over, guess where Mo's going?
Going to watch that one. It's fun. And our last team, and if you can tell, our theme this week is the Northwest. So which makes the last team the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now,
This is fun.
To be clear, obviously this is what they just did for the Thunder. This is why I made the disclaimer before we started, because I know the first question will probably be, where's James Harden? And I think that James Harden, while he was a great six-man for the Thunder, he obviously left the team before he turned into the James Harden we know today.
Right.
So I
think
kept it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Also, I kind of kept it just Oklahoma City history. I didn't include Seattle. Perk was 5. He's right there. I promise.
Yeah, come on, Kyle. We can't forget about Perk. He's right behind Durant and SGA in them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I kept this to just Oklahoma City. I didn't touch the Supersonics. We can do that almost as a fun little, bonus round if we want later. But
that would have been interesting.
So
no, go ahead. I think this might be the one we disagree on, maybe, because Durant's time with the Thunder is a little bit longer than SGA's time with the Thunder. But here's the thing. SGA accomplished what Durant did. He won an MVP, but then he won a conference finals MVP, and then he won a finals MVP. I'm going to put SGA 1. I'm going to put him 1. I am. You might disagree, but I'm going to put him 1.
It's funny. If we're talking Thunder history, I'd put Russ 1 before KD, but just because he did stay longer and did end up winning that MVP later down the road.
Right. I'm going to put SGA 1.
Okay.
And I know people will go, whoa, yeah, but he's not. This isn't like his second year with the Thunder. I think SGA is like 4 or 5 years into his tenure with the Thunder. Like he went through the growing pains, like they went through the growing pains. I get it. If somebody wants to tell me it's Russ because he stayed longer than I believe Russ's tenure is longer than any of theirs, I'm not going to hate on that you say Russ is 1. But I would still take SGA over Durant because I'm going to give some credence to the fact that he not only put up numbers like Durant, he stayed and he won a title. He did what Durant could have done, but chose not to do, and he stayed and he brought Oklahoma City their first. And granted, I know historians out there listening to Brett and I chop it up. Yes, the Seattle Supersonics, I believe, won a title in 78-79. But I'm just talking about the Thunder side of this. He brought the Oklahoma City Thunder their first NBA championship. So if Russ is 1, I don't think that's crazy. I'm gonna put SGA 2 and Durant 3.
Yeah, no, I don't even think it's that crazy. He's been there, like I said, 5 years. We're talking 3 All-NBA first teams. You already mentioned the MVP. He also was a scoring champ this year as well.
Facts.
So, and he was also almost on an all-defensive team. He was actually very close to getting there, too. So, this is a guy that got it done on both sides of the ball. He had arguably, I think when we did this before, I think we had him as like a top 3 or 4 guard season of all time. Or he's like in that conversation of one of the 5 greatest guard seasons we've ever seen. So, I don't even think it's all that crazy. So, I think we can agree then, okay, we'll put Shea at 1, Serge at 4. You got Russ at 2 and KD at 3, I'm guessing then?
Yeah, I'm going Russ at 2. Wait. Yes. We're in agreement. Okay. I'm going Russ at 2 because Russ stayed. In the end, Russ and KD had the same amount of success, but Russ stayed longer. And I think that's why the fan base loves him more. Like, remember when KD came back that first regular season game with the Warriors? I believe Oklahoma City beat the brakes off of them for whatever reason. and they love that about Russ. So I'm going to go Russ ahead of KD. Because we're not talking about who's had a greater career. We're talking about who's the greatest Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's Russ.
Okay, no, that's
somebody. John put PG. I can't put PG on there, John, because he really was only there like 2 seasons, and he was one of those seasons was when Russ was like still doing crazy thing like on the second half of that. What do you do? Like 3 triple double seasons in a row or 4? I mean, Paul George was there for 2 seasons. You got to be there longer than a cup of coffee before I can put you in the conversation.
PG, like he definitely, I think he crashes the honorable mention just because of the 2019 season where he was a top 3 MVP and DPOY candidate. Like, I think he gets into the conversation, but I think the longevity favors Serge. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, Serge was the 3rd option. It's not like Serge was hiding as like the 4th or 5th op. Like, Serge was the 3rd option, and he did a good job at it.
And he made he was all NBA defense multiple times. So I think Serge is fine. I think Paul George and James Harden are honorable mention guys. Maybe even throw another name in there that's a little wicked because he was there before all these guys before it started. Maybe Jeff Green is an honorable mention.
I do love me some Jeff Green. So Dort will replace Serge in a year or 2. I wouldn't say that. The problem is with Dort is Dort's like a 4th option.
Yeah, I will say this, John. There's a better chance that J-Dub is going to replace Serge at some point. Maybe even Chet replaces him, but I don't think it's going to be Dort because he's basically the same thing that Serge is, just a different position.
Yeah, no, I think that, J-Dub and Chet could very well, I think J-Dub or Chet could very well crash the party.
I agree.
Replacing Ibaka. I think, in fact, that's probably going to happen. I think, once we start talking I think it just gets challenging after 4. Like, then we're talking you need an MVP to really enter the club of, replacing, Russ or KD, and a lot of counting stats. So, by the way, shout out to Steven Adams, one of my favorite players to watch just because, listen, I think the art of setting a hard screen is becoming a lost art. People are focusing more on flexibility and mobility and aren't just like bulking up and getting all this muscle. So watching guys like Adams and Rudy set these ridiculously hard screens, I love it.
I will say this. I've seen it live. I can't even imagine what it's like to run into a Steven Adams. It must be like running into an actual wall. He is nothing but muscle. I know before the injuries, people were saying strongest player in the NBA. I think he's still the strongest player in the NBA.
I feel like the worst feeling in honestly, Mo, if I was playing and I just ran into a Steven Adams screen and nobody called it out, I'd probably try to fight my teammates in the locker room for not calling that out.
Wouldn't you? Like say you're going in at halftime. Like, first thing I'm going to say is, what the hell was that? Why didn't you say anything?
Oh, yeah. No, I love Steven Adams. He's just him and Jared Allen, guys who are just, they look at just as like lob threats. I think that guys like that just provide so much value in being able to just simply do things like set a hard screen because it gets your guard so much separation. It's why then there's that one report like, oh, Donovan Mitchell that really doesn't want Jared Allen to leave. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because Jared Allen can create so much space for D-Mitch just by, setting a basic screen. Whereas Evan Mobley screens, they're all right, but they're not really the greatest. You can get around an Evan Mobley screen. Well, you can't really get around a Jared Allen screen.
Right. They hit differently. And look, Steven Adams also did something that very few players in the modern era do as a teammate is he also showed you if he needed to, he could have played the role of pulling guard in the NFL because many a games I saw Steven Adams clear out 2 guys so Russell Westbrook could get a running start to get a rebound.
Him always getting away with grabbing both defenders and throwing them into each other is the funniest thing ever.
Just freakishly strong.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
No, the Thunder.
Sabonis.
I love their. I love the Thunder. They're great.
I
Adams,
can't.
Sabonis, Joe. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Some of these divisions are going to be so hard to do, though, Mo. Like, oh my goodness. Like, we just did the Northwest. Imagine when we get to, like, for example, Mo, your Lakers in the Pacific Division, like the Mount Rushmore for LA, for the Warriors.
Those are going to be really long and hard debates when we get to those. My God, the Celtics might take 2 shows.
Say, even when we say, I think next week we'll probably just keep going. We can do the.
He say Johnson Hornets? John, that's gonna be a short show. That's gonna be a short show.
Kemba Walker, Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, and like Glenn Rice.
It's pretty short. Yeah. Yeah, you just said it. You said Kemba, Lonzo, Grandmama, and Glenn Rice. I think off the top of my head, I think you're 100% right. I think that's it.
That probably just is it. I remember making that joke, Muggsy. There we go.
Throw in Muggsy. That's all. That's the whole 5. And now we're already into the honorable mentions.
I remember joking when Wemby got drafted and they posted that picture of him talking to like Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Tony Parker, and I made the joke like, "What's the worst franchise that you could recreate this picture with?" Like, you send him to the Hornets and he's talking to like Alonzo Mourning, Bismack Biyombo, Al Jefferson, and Kemba Walker. Like
Bismack Biyombo. What is the kid with the ugly jump shot?
Kid Gilchrist.
Yes, Kid Gilchrist. Like that. Talk about a team that has a lack of pedigree. Wow.
That is one, like, honestly, like, it's funny looking at that all-time, like, Mount Rushmore, because I'm looking at it like LaMelo Ball probably isn't too far away from being on that Mount Rushmore.
I think if he can put together 2 healthy seasons, he's going to be in the Mount Rushmore.
There we go. That Gerald Wallace.
Gerald Wallace, really good player, definitely deserves some love. They are worse than the Pelicans. I agree. Although I don't think the Pelicans is a lot better.
No, the Pelicans aren't going to be that much better. Chris Paul, David West, Tyson Chandler, AD.
So Chris Paul starts you off really good. David West is a rock. He's solid. AD will be there.
And then the 5th guy might be like 4th guy just might be like Tyson, because after that we start getting into like Zion, and he's like a little too injury prone for my liking to be up there.
Yeah, he's part of the hype train. He definitely ain't in the top 5 or top 4. Who am I forgetting? I feel like there's a name we're forgetting from the Pelicans.
I
can't remember. Cousins?
Aja was there. Cousins was there for like
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Did he get 3 years?
Cousins probably makes the Kings one, but
yeah, that's where he makes it. That's another team. If you really look at the Kings, theirs is kind of interesting too.
Yeah, no, they absolutely will be. It'll probably be pretty much half the starting 5 of the 0-2 Kings and DeMarcus Cousins. Like, looking at that stretch, I'm like De'Aaron Fox might already be there, and then it's like DeMarcus Cousins, and then we get like Chris Webber,
Peja,
and then like Peja. Like, that just might be it, without doing more research off the top of my head.
Look, it's gonna be fun, and some of these divisions, the debates are gonna run a little bit deeper than others. I see John just put up CJ. Well, CJ just got there though, John. He just got there.
Yeah, good enough. Welcome to the team.
Hey, you know what, John? You just brought up something. If you go back, no, he wouldn't replace Aldridge, but CJ would be honorable mention. That's a good one.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. Say D Cousins.
Yeah, we mentioned him, but we think he would get more love on the Kings because he was there longer, I believe, and put up more numbers there.
Yeah, it's just not enough of a body of work for me to consider him for, for the, what are they called? For the
Pelicans.
Pelicans, yep. Had a brain fart for a second. So, by the way, I had a fun idea to introduce on the show, too, as well, because that was our last team for Mount Rushmore, and we'll bring it back next week. We'll just keep going through all the divisions. And then, hey, Drew Holiday, I actually like that one. But, I figure that we'll end the show with some fun. But before that, this guy came up with a fantastic idea, Mo. Well, there's one phrase in the NBA I'm starting to hate, and it's the phrase pure hooper. I hate that phrase because it's the same player every time. It's an undersized combo guard that doesn't play defense and scores at a highly inefficient clip. But you know what? You know what? Somebody came with the idea, Mo. We should, for one of these expansion teams that are coming, we should let NBA Twitter control one of them and let them generate an entire team of pure hoopers and the players that they like and see how they do. I think it'd be the funniest experiment ever.
That would be interesting if you leave it up to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. That would be, I'd be interested to see what they would put together.
It would be like a lineup of, it'd just be like players that they think are like undervalued, but they're not playing a lot of minutes for a reason.
Right.
Average like 10 wins a season, because I feel like it'd be a lineup with like, all right, guys, it's going to be Cam Thomas. We're starting off fine. Cam Reddish, because Ant said he was the hardest to guard in high school.
Right.
Amani Bates has a nice mixtape. Like, Kenneth Lofton looked pretty good that one time, and Bol looks good once every 10 games.
Don't forget, former Summer League MVP Kyle Kuzma.
It'll just be all guys that they think are being like completely underused, and then they'll realize real quick, like, these guys aren't playing for a reason, aren't they?
Right. That's the joke. There's a reason they're not playing.
Oh, so I figure we have a little fun, Mo, and end this episode with some trivia.
Sounds good.
And, the chat can obviously join in on this, too. I picked a team that's near and dear to your, heart. We're going to do a little Lakers trivia. Lakers 3-point field goal leaders. Can you name the top 10 3-point shooters in Lakers history, judging by field goals made?
The top 10?
Yeah. They're all post-merger. That's kind of why I went with this one.
So, not field goal percentage, but just how many 3-pointers they made.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I think I could probably come up with a name or here or there.
The easiest one is the first one.
I don't know the first one, but in terms of field goals made, Kobe Bryant.
Yep. Kobe at 1.
I figured that. Well, it ain't Jerry West because he didn't shoot threes. But Michael Cooper did.
Michael Cooper is not on here.
Shocking. Byron Scott did.
Byron Scott is number 5. He has 595 made. Kobe has 1,827.
I know who else shot him too. Derek Fisher.
Yep. That's who Kyle said in the comments. You both are right. He's number 3 at 846.
There you go. Somebody said Kareem. No. I think it was just on the tip of my tongue. What about Robert Horry?
Say Robert Horry is not on here.
Ooh.
So, John, you got to think good 3-point shooters. We're guessing the trivia is the top 10 3-pointers made in Lakers history. You got Kobe at 1, Fisher at 3, Byron Scott at 5. And Kyle, by the way, is correct. At number 4,
Nick
Van Exel, 750.
Nice. Where does Eddie Jones rank? Is he on there?
Eddie Jones is number 10,
Eddie
489.
Jones. That's my guy, Eddie.
So you're just missing 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
How about Magic Johnson?
He is not on there.
How about Anthony Peeler?
He is not on there.
I'm throwing up names. I'm trying to picture guys that were there long enough to be part of that. Odom. Yeah, Johnson, Lamar Odom.
Lamar is
not on there. He's not on there. He didn't shoot on threes. I would say old boy Vucevic shot more threes than Odom did.
I will say a lot of these players on here are more recent.
More recent. All right. LeBron?
LeBron is number 2, 943.
Yeah. Okay. That helps a lot. All right. So you got LeBron. Where's Austin Reeves at?
Austin Reeves is number 9, 493.
There you go. Because they shoot threes a lot more now. Right. So who's missing?
Miss 6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, and 8. Right in a row. 6, 7, and 8. I'm trying to think who's on the squad or was on the squad. I'm kind of stuck here. More recent?
Recent.
He said Brandon Ingram.
No.
Not
they have all played in the 2020s.
Not BI. Well, not Clarkson. He wasn't there that long. What about Trevor Ariza? I'm just throwing out names now. I don't know.
No.
How about our test? No.
Oh, yep. The Facebook stream did freeze. You're right, John.
Like
I said, all these guys, they've been key role players in all have been key role players in the 2020s.
The 2020s? And they were there with the team for multiple years?
Yep.
Dang. It's on the tip of my tongue. He just left Orlando. Dang. Played for the Nuggets. Can't get his name out. It might not be him, but that's what I'm thinking. I can't get the name out though.
You are correct. KCP is number 7 at 522.
Yeah, that's it. KCP. I couldn't get the name out.
And John, the funny part is you are right, by the way. Kyle Kuzma is number 8 at 510.
That's insane. Kuzma's on there.
So at number 6. So Byron Scott was already guessed.
Yeah, he's not on there. I thought he would be too.
Kobe, LeBron, Derek Fisher, Nick Van Exel. Byron Scott was at 5. Blank. Caldwell Pope, Kuzma, Austin Reeves, Eddie Jones. So there's one more name.
And he was a key role player. Shot the 3? I don't know.
He also played in the other big market. He was also big in he also played it quite a bit of time in the New York area too. I won't tell you which team though.
Dang it. The guy that used to play for the Mavs, I can't get his name out. I don't know. Not Dinwiddie. Not him.
Not Clarkson.
Not Dinwiddie.
Not Dinwiddie.
All right.
But you are right, it is a guard.
Yeah, I would have thought Clarkson too. Oh, D'Lo, of course.
D'Lo is number 6 at 593.
I'm sitting his bricklaying self. Of course, D'Lo. Yeah.
So your top 10 Lakers and 3-point field goals: Kobe, LeBron, Derek Fisher, Nick Van Exel, Byron Scott, D'Lo, Pope, Kuzma, Reeves, Eddie Jones.
Wow, that's crazy. I would have really thought that Byron Scott would have had more, but then he came from his era. Maybe he took 2 a game. So yeah, I got you.
No, fair enough. But yeah, I thought we would end the stream with, like I said, some fun trivia. We might add some more.
That was fun.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We'll make sure to continue to add fun wrinkles and everything. Say, guys, we thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, chat. Appreciate you guys. I want to shout out everybody. So J Dog came in late. Appreciate you. Kyle's already there. Loves John. Earlier we got into a heated debate with Kenneth. Right, Kenneth, you are welcome to join on and chop it up with us anytime. Kenneth had some strong feelings on Dennis Rodman, which I didn't agree with all of them. I much respect to Kenneth. John is always brilliant. Appreciate you guys. And Kenneth had a good idea. I thought about this, and maybe at some point we will do something where we can take in some live calls and have a little bit of back and forth dialogue, so long as we can keep it respectable dialogue.
No, absolutely. Like I said, that was a lot of fun. So we'll be back next week. We'll be breaking down a new division. And until then, thank you guys for tuning in. And we really hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page. And join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.